like for you? Because we've had Australian astronauts before, but this is something different, right? How does this happen?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge honour to be a recently qualified astronaut, better yet, an Australian astronaut. When I grew up here in Sydney, I grew up in Curlie on the northern beaches, and the sky was full of stars, and I was just mesmerised by that, and I was drawn in by that childhood curiosity, wanting to get up close to planets no one ever had before. And as I grew up, I fell in love with science, and I quickly saw that Australia didn't even have a space agency, let alone a pathway to being an astronaut. But I was a young, stubborn kid, and that didn't hold me back. At school, I was asked to write down 3 things I wanted to be when I grew up, and I just wrote astronaut 3 times, because what else is there? And my school, instead of, saying that was ridiculous, they said, well, go figure out what that would take, probably hoping that would show me a bit of sense. And here I saw it was unlikely, but I saw that to be an astronaut, you could be a scientist, you could be an engineer, you could be a pilot, you could be a doctor, you should have expeditionary experience, stuff like military service or going to Antarctica or scientific field work. You should have operational skills, whether from your day job, say as a surgeon or a pilot, or with strong hobbies in that, and a bunch of other things. And I thought, well, that sounds pretty great. Like, what's the downside? And I chose to pursue engineering and science in the end. I went for science, but I added engineering because it had the word space in the title. Space engineering. I didn't know what engineering was. I didn't know an engineer. And actually that remains the biggest barrier to young women becoming engineers today, knowing what it is. And I'm so glad I did, because it took me all around the world to work on some of the most compelling missions I could have ever hoped to work on, launching rockets in the north of Scandinavia, gravity wave detection missions, human spaceflight missions, and so on. And during that time, I was so inspired by looking to people like Paul Scully-Power and Andy Thomas, Australians that had been to space before, representing the US, but doing wonderful outreach work in Australia. And I saw that they made their career overseas, so that's what I thought I would have to do. So for me to now represent Australia is an absolutely huge honour, and I'm excited not just for me, but for what I think it can do for our country to unlock access to this really opaque world, quite frankly, for our scientists and our researchers and our companies, and I hope accelerate the time to when we have more Australian astronauts.